Chapter 1841. Abysmal Saint Master a Great Emperor using Soul Burn? Jian Wushuang's body shook as well. With just a mere Fortress Master Hong Qian using Soul Burn, the fighting capabilities that he had unleashed were already so frightening. If a great emperor were to unleash this move, Jian Wushuang was totally unable to imagine how fearsome it would be. However, great emperor experts stood at the top, and in the eternal chaotic world, wouldn't there be no threats that could force them to that extent? Jian Wushuang asked. Under normal circumstances, it would indeed be impossible. However, in the history of the eternal chaotic world, there was a great emperor who was forced to the point that he unleashed this move. As a result of that, this great emperor fell. As for who forced him to this extent, it was Emperor Bai, Emperor God Liu Guang said. Jian Wushuang was stunned. He knew that Emperor Bai, who was recognized as the strongest person in the eternal chaotic world, had once killed a great emperor. In a situation where he had given up all hope, that great emperor would definitely counterattack by using Soul Burn. However, looking at it, even though he had used Soul Burn, he was still unable to do anything to Emperor Bai in the end. Instead, he had died in Emperor Bai's hands. Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Liu Guang was having a discussion. All of a sudden, buzz! A powerful aura burst forth abruptly. Jian Wushuang, Emperor God Liu Guang and Emperor God Zhu Yin looked in the direction of the source of the aura immediately. At a void by the side, a white-robed man had just rushed over and he crushed a token right away. The powerful aura had come from the token. After that, Jian Wushuang and the two of them noticed that a dim black shadow was taking shape slowly in the void. After the black shadow took its form, the whole universe fell into complete darkness, and it was so dark that it looked as if the sun could not be seen forever. This aura, in the whole eternal chaotic world, there is only one person who has this aura. Jian Wushuang and the two of them looked at one another and their eyes filled with fear. After that, the three of them greeted the black shadow together. Greetings to Abysmal Saint Master. The Abysmal Saint Master was the great emperor who ruled the Abysmal Sanctuary. At that moment, the consciousness body of the Abysmal Saint Master had descended. Jian Wushuang. A hoarse voice spread across the area slowly. All of a sudden, a pair of sharp eyes from the black shadow pierced the void and looked at Jian Wushuang fiercely. When he was stared at by that pair of eyes, Jian Wushuang's body could not help but shake. Oh, Liu Guang is here as well? The Abysmal Saint Master glanced at Emperor God Liu Guang. Emperor God Liu Guang bowed down immediately to show her respect. As for Emperor God Zhu Yin, Abysmal Saint Master was too lazy to even look at him. Jian Wushuang, Emperor God Liu Guang, all of you have fought your way into the Abysmal Sanctuary without even coming to greet me. Aren't you disrespecting me? The Abysmal Saint Master's voice was ice cold, and it was impossible to tell whether he was delighted or furious. The hearts of Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Liu Guang felt chilly. There was no choice. After all, they were facing a great emperor, and it was not a normal great emperor. On the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, there was a total of 15 great emperors, and Abysmal Saint Master was ranked third. He was only inferior to the Red Dragon King and the Supreme Emperor Bai. Abysmal Saint Master, in front of many experts of the Sanctuary Alliance 1 year ago, I said that I would fight my way into the Deluge Fortress within 10 years' time. If I'm not wrong, Saint Master should have heard of this piece of news. Jian Wushuang said. I have indeed heard of it. However, hearing of it is one matter and not greeting me is another matter. Abysmal Saint Master's voice turned heavy and the universe shivered in fear. Jian Wushuang gritted his teeth. Let's cut the crap. I only came here to tell you that since the Almighties in the Deluge Fortress have a grudge against your lineage of star, you can go ahead and kill them and I will not stop you. However, Fortress Master Hong Qian has stayed in the Abysmal Sanctuary for many years and he can barely be considered one of my people. Hence, you are not allowed to kill him. Do you understand? The Abysmal Saint Master said heavily. Upon hearing that, Jian Wushuang frowned. After muttering for some time, he said, Abysmal Saint Master, I'm sorry. You're a bit too late. Fortress Master Hong Qian already died. What did you say? Abysmal Saint Master's sharp eyes changed into 2 strands of lightning and swept over the area. The lightning struck the void beside Jian Wushuang and cracked open the void completely. However, Jian Wushuang stood upright at his position. Fortress Master Hong Qian has already died, Jian Wushuang said again. Abysmal Saint Master, Emperor God Liu Guang spoke as well. Indeed, Fortress Master Hong Qian has been killed. How can it be so fast? Abysmal Saint Master frowned. The moment he got the news that Jian Wushuang had fought his way into the Deluge Fortress, he got people to bring his token and hurry to the Deluge Fortress immediately. Along the way, there was no delay at all and not much time had passed since then. Looking at it from his point of view, in such a short amount of time, it would be impossible for Jian Wushuang to kill Fortress Master Hong Qian. After arriving at the battlefield, although he did not see Fortress Master Hong Qian right away, he thought that Fortress Master Hong Qian had escaped. However, he did not expect Jian Wushuang to kill a peak emperor god like Fortress Master Hong Qian in such a short amount of time. Jian Wushuang, Sword Emperor, you're really talented. Abysmal Saint Master was ice cold. Before I took action, I looked at the information of Fortress Master Hong Qian and I thought that Fortress Master Hong Qian was not really related to you, Abysmal Saint Master. As such, I took action. If I offended you, I hope that you will forgive me, Jian Wushuang apologized. Ha ha, he has already been killed by you. What use is there for me to blame you? The Abysmal Saint Master laughed coldly. Forget it. Jian Wushuang. The Abysmal Saint Master's sharp eyes looked at Jian Wushuang again and there was some coldness deep inside his eyes. For the matter this time around, considering the fact that you do not know of our relationship, I shall not blame you. However, I still have to warn you. For whatever you do in the future, you had better stay low. In this period of time, you killed quite a number of Almighties and there are already many people in the Sanctuary Alliance who are dissatisfied with you. As you are a top genius, the Sanctuary Alliance is still able to bear with it. However, if you were to continue your massacre and overdo it, you might go over the limit of the Sanctuary Alliance. At that time, even if we have to suppress our grief, the Sanctuary Alliance will still send experts to kill a top expert like you. You had better look out for yourself. After giving a cold snort, Abysmal Saint Master's black shadow started to dissipate slowly. Farewell, Abysmal Saint Master. Jian Wushuang, Emperor God Liu Guang and Emperor God Zhu Yin bowed down and looked at the Abysmal Saint Master's consciousness body as it started to dissipate slowly. It was not until it dissipated completely that the three of them stood up. Ha ha, the Abysmal Saint Master can really hold his temper. Moreover, looking at it, he does not really like me, Jian Wushuang laughed. Dislike you? That's highly possible. Emperor God Liu Guang nodded her head. According to what I know, the Abysmal Saint Master has always been extremely envious. Chapter 1842. Ropin jealous? Jealous of who? Jian Wushuang asked subconsciously. Emperor Bai, I guess. In eternal chaotic world, besides Emperor Bai, who else could make him jealous? Emperor God Liu Guang smiled. As for the reason why he didn't like you, I think you should be able to make a wild guess. Jian Wushuang kept quiet. He heard Emperor God Liu Guang and he naturally understood. Abysmal Saint Master, the third place on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. It was said that he and Red Dragon King on the second place were evenly matched. Because Red Dragon King's defense power was higher, he was listed at a higher rank than him. There was nothing to be jealous about with Red Dragon King. However, it was different from Emperor Bai. Emperor Bai, he was widely acknowledged as the strongest in eternal chaotic world. He was a superb existence that could kill another great emperor. Although Abysmal Saint Master was in the third place, he was fearful of Emperor Bai. He couldn't stand the feeling of fear. Hence, he might be jealous of Emperor Bai. As for the reason why Abysmal Saint Master was unhappy with him, it was because he was greatly talented and had too great of a potential. Once he received the 7th step of inverse cultivation skill and broke through to being an almighty, he would definitely have fighting power of a great emperor. If he were to improve more, he could easily reach the level of Abysmal Saint Master and Red Dragon King. If he were to reach his peak in growth, he could totally become the second Emperor Bai. One Emperor Bai had already made Abysmal Saint Master super jealous, but there was another one. From what I know, Fortress Master Hong Qian has nothing to do with Abysmal Saint Master. Fortress Master Hong Qian isn't his man. But he descended his consciousness clone for Fortress Master Hong Qian and wanted to stop me from killing him? He was obviously aiming at me. He said earlier that Sanctuary Alliance felt a strong antipathy towards me. I think it was just him alone. If it wasn't me who had barged into Deluge Fortress today, but another powerful peak Emperor God, Abysmal Saint Master might not care. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes and said. Very possibly, Emperor God Liu Guang said, and he only descended his consciousness clone after all. It didn't possess any fighting power. If he were to descend personally, he might use that as an excuse to kill you. Maybe because he has scruples with Sanctuary Alliance, he wouldn't kill you directly, but he could punish you slightly. It seems like Abysmal Saint Master is quite dictatorial. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Whoever is powerful could be dictatorial. In actual fact, many great emperors of Sanctuary Alliance who are high above are all dictatorial. There is no one who dares to go against their will. Once someone goes against them, punishment is considered a mild treatment. Sometimes, they might even take action to kill some Sir Gods and Emperor Gods. Comparatively, Emperor Bai, who is highest of all, takes note of his identity and almost never descends to punish Sir Gods and Emperor Gods. As for the great emperor that Emperor Bai killed, he was immoderate in conduct and stepped over Emperor Bai's bottom line. Hence, Emperor Bai killed him, Emperor God Liu Guang said. I see. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Whatever. I never provoke any of the great emperors anyway. The great emperors shouldn't kill me personally. After all, they have to consider the higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance who are anticipating my growth. Just like Abysmal Saint Master who didn't like me and didn't want me to grow, he didn't dare to do anything about me in public. At most, he would play some tricks at the back. That's true. Emperor God Liu Guang nodded in agreement. Let's go. Let's leave. Jian Wushuang immediately left with Emperor God Liu Guang and Emperor God Zhu Yin. They drove out from Abysmal Sanctuary at the fastest speed. In the ancient silver spaceship, Jian Wushuang sat together with Emperor God Liu Guang and Emperor God Zhu Yin. As for Jian Yi, he stood by the side politely. Ha ha, it felt great. It was a great fight. 13 Almighties, including Fortress Master Hong Qian, none of them escaped and all are killed. Emperor God Zhu Yin looked excited. Although he was an Emperor God and had once participated in many massacres, he had only seen once or twice a scene where 13 Almighties had died together. Plus, the deceased included peak Emperor God, like Fortress Master Hong Qian. To be able to kill all 13 Almighties including Fortress Master Hong Qian, such great battle achievement, I have to thank the two of you for your assistance. Thank you. Jian Wushuang expressed his gratitude. I took a chance to avert calamities for others. It's nothing. To be frank, I didn't do much for this fight and I received a chaotic divine treasure. I feel a little embarrassed. Emperor God Zhu Yin rubbed his nose. The biggest killer of the fight had been Jian Wushuang. He had killed more than half of the Almighties alone. Plus, he had performed a great technique to break the formation forceful at the beginning. Then, he had killed Emperor God Bing Can in a short time, which had led to the situation of one-sided domination. It could be said that the fight had succeeded mostly because of Jian Wushuang. Then, there was Emperor God Liu Gang. At the beginning of the fight, Emperor God Liu Guang had suppressed Fortress Master Hong Qian so that he didn't have any chance to attack. Hence, Jian Wushuang, Emperor God Zhu Yin and the 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers could kill all the other 12 Almighties. Lastly, there was Emperor God Zhu Yin. He had only held back some Sir Gods. He put in less effort. Regardless, without both of your help, it would have been impossible for me to kill Fortress Master Hong Qian and the rest. Jian Wushuang smiled and then took out the spear that gave out boundless chilliness. Emperor God Zhu Yin, this is your reward. Jian Wushuang passed the spear to Emperor God Zhu Yin. Ha ha, thank you. Emperor God Zhu Yin took it and was thrilled. A chaotic divine treasure. Although he didn't use spear as his main weapon, it was extremely precious to him. Looking at Emperor God Zhu Yin's expression, Jian Wushuang asked again, Emperor God Zhu Yin, I wonder if you would be interested in being Lineage of Stars Guest Elder? Guest Elder? Emperor God Zhu Yin raised his eyebrows and smiled. Sword Emperor, how can I? Guest Elder is only a name. You don't have to do anything for Lineage of Star normally. Only when Lineage of Star is in crisis, you lend us a helping hand will do. As for the condition, I will give you another chaotic divine treasure, a defense armor. Jian Wushuang said. What? Emperor God Zhu Yin stunned. Even Emperor God Liu Guang at the side couldn't help but look at Jian Wushuang. Chaotic divine treasure was extremely precious, everyone knew that. Defense armor was even more precious than attack divine weapons. Emperor God Ju Yin had a chaotic divine treasure levels divine weapon, and it was a divine weapon that he was good at. In addition to the spear that Jian Wushuang gave him, he had two. The combination of two was far behind a defense armor. Chapter 1843, Extremely Rich Sword Emperor, are you for real? Emperor God Ju Yin's eyes glowed brilliantly and he looked at Jian Wushuang. Of course, Jian Wushuang laughed. Moreover, if you were to be a guest elder of the lineage of Star, you would also have the chance to cultivate the secret skill of Star Palace of the lineage of Star. The secret skill of Star Palace? Emperor God Ju Yin's eyes turned red at once and his breathing became heavier. A Chaos Divine Treasure Level Defense Armor was extremely attractive to him. After all, most of the Emperor Gods, which was inclusive of some peak Emperor Gods, did not possess a Chaos Divine Treasure Level Defense Armor. For example, Fortress Master Hong Qian did not have one. Moreover, the secret skill of Star Palace was even more impressive and even great emperors drooled at the secret skill of Star Palace. As such, he naturally yearned to cultivate it as well. So, as long as he agreed to become a guest elder of the lineage of Star, he would be able to obtain all these. Things were really falling into his lap. Of course, for the secret skill of Star Palace, at the very least, you must become a guest elder of the lineage of Star for 100,000 years and also make some contributions to the lineage of Star before you are able to cultivate it. As for the defense armor, I can give it to you right away, Jian Wushuang said. After taking a deep breath, Emperor God Ju Yin looked at Jian Wushuang again. Sword Emperor, thank you for thinking so highly of me. The conditions that you have given me are too alluring and I am absolutely unable to find a reason to refuse your offer. However, because of that, I find it a bit embarrassing. How about this? Give me some time. It will not take too long, at most thousands of years. Then, I will definitely come to the lineage of Star and I will also bring the lineage of Star a great present. With that, I will have the right to become a guest elder of the lineage of Star. No problem. Jian Wushuang's eyes brightened up. After that, he flipped his palm and some black armor appeared in his hands. The moment the black armor appeared, Emperor God Ju Yin's eyes were attracted to it right away. He could already tell that the black armor was of the level of a Chaos Divine Treasure. I will give this armor to you first. Jian Wushuang passed the black armor to Emperor God Ju Yin. This. Emperor God Ju Yin hesitated slightly. Sword Emperor, I have yet to join the lineage of Star for real. This armor. It is merely a Chaos Divine Treasure level armor and it is nothing much. Just accept it. Jian Wushuang laughed. Upon seeing that, Emperor God Ju Yin stopped refusing him. When Emperor God Liu Guang, who was at the side, saw the scene, she could not help but gasp. It is a Chaos Divine Treasure level armor and you gave it away so easily. You are really liberal with your wealth. Moreover, if I am not wrong, the armor that you are wearing is of the level of a Chaos Divine Treasure as well. Ha ha. Even though some peak Emperor Gods have paid a huge price, it is still very difficult for them to obtain such a kind of armor. For example, Emperor God Xianxia of the Soaring Heaven King Palace only possessed one because of the great foundation of the Soaring Heaven King Palace, as well as Emperor God Qianling. However, Sword Emperor, you alone possess two such armors. This really makes us envious of you. Emperor God Liu Guang, if you really need it, I am willing to give you the same conditions and also add on some Chaos Divine Treasure level attack weapons. Why don't Emperor God Liu Guang come to the lineage of Star and become a guest elder as well? Jian Wushuang laughed. Upon hearing that, Emperor God Liu Guang was attracted as well. From Jian Wushuang's words, she could tell that Jian Wushuang still had Chaos Divine Treasure level armors. Moreover, he had a few attack weapons. With so many treasures with him, he was not concerned in the slightest. This had caused Emperor God Liu Guang to be extremely surprised. In actual fact, Jian Wushuang indeed did not care about those treasures. It should be known that he had searched the ancient battlefield in his hometown for 6,000 years alone. For that ancient battlefield, no almighties had gone to search it. As such, a large number of treasures and opportunities remained there in one piece. They were all waiting for Jian Wushuang to get them. In just a short 6,000 years' time, he had searched many special pieces. As such, how many treasures and opportunities had he obtained? In particular, In one of the special places, he had obtained a total of 7 Chaos Divine Treasure in one go, and there were 2 armors among them. Moreover, including Fortress Master Hong Qian, he had killed a total of 4 Emperor Gods and obtained 3 Chaos Divine Treasures. By adding all of them up, Jian Wushuang possessed more than 20 Chaos Divine Treasure, and among them, there were 4 armors. With so many Chaos Divine Treasure on hand, Jian Wushuang could be said to be extremely rich. As such, he would of course not be stingy with regards to 1 or 2 armors. After all, the lineage of star situation then was not normal. If he were able to use 1 or 2 Chaos Divine Treasures to win an Emperor God over, he would have benefited greatly. However, it was a pity that Emperor God Liu Guang shook her head and declined. Be it attack weapons or defense armors, I have all of them already. Moreover, I do not like to participate in fights between the powerhouses or sects. Hence, I can only thank Sword Emperor for your good offer. Upon hearing that, Jian Wushuang could not do anything at all. No matter what, Emperor God Liu Guang has helped me greatly this time around, and I will definitely remember this favor of yours. In the future, if you have something you need help with, please go ahead and instruct me, Jian Wushuang said. Emperor God Liu Guang nodded her head. The ancient silver spaceship left the Abysmal Sanctuary in no time. After leaving the Abysmal Sanctuary, Emperor God Liu Guang and Emperor God Zhu Yin bided farewell to Jian Wushuang. Of course, before leaving, all of them exchanged their transmission tokens. Sword Emperor, within the next thousands of years, I, Zhu Yin, will definitely go to the lineage of Star, Emperor God Zhu Yin said earnestly. All right. Jian Wushuang nodded his head. The 2 of them left in a jiffy, and Jian Wushuang also started to head back to the lineage of Star in no time. The news of Jian Wushuang inviting Emperor God Liu Guang, Emperor God Zhu Yin, and bringing 4 battle puppets to fight their way into the Deluge Fortress and then killing the 13 Emperor Gods, including Fortress Master Hong Qian, spread. The whole Sanctuary Alliance and the whole eternal chaotic world burst into an uproar instantly. Colored Glaze Sanctuary, within the Soaring Heaven King Palace. Emperor God Xianxia was drinking tea with Sir God Xian Bing and Sir God Xian Ren, who had just joined the Soaring Heaven King Palace. At the same time, they were also chatting. HMH, that Jian Wushuang is really extremely arrogant. Fortress Master Hong Qian, Emperor God Bing Can, and the 11 Almighties under them. With such a frightening lineup, even the Soaring Heaven King Palace would be a bit afraid of them. However, this brat actually said that he would fight his way into the Deluge Fortress within 10 years? And kill these 13 Almighties? Where did his courage come from? Emperor God Qian Xiao snorted coldly. This Jian Wushuang's speed of growth is too fast. Moreover, he killed 2 Emperor Gods previously. As such, he is blind and extremely arrogant. According to what I know, when he made his decision and said those words, he did not consult the Star Palace Master or the Almighties in the lineage of Star at all, and he merely made the decision himself. Ha ha! Who does he think he is? Even if it were the Star Palace Master, I reckon that he wouldn't be so daring as to do that. Sir God Xian Bing laughed coldly. I reckon that the Star Palace Master and the Almighties of the lineage of Star are probably so scared that they are unable to find a place to cry in. Sir God Qian Lan sneered. However, just then, a piece of news was sent to the 3 of them at almost the same time. Jian Wushuang has already fought his way into the Deluge Fortress. Fortress Master Hong Qian, Emperor God Bing Can, and the 11 Sir Gods under them are all dead. None of them has escaped. Upon getting the news, the smile on the faces of the 3 of them, who were originally sneering wantonly, froze instantly. Chapter 1844. Changes in ranking in Sanctuary Alliance. There was a hubbub. Countless experts had heard that Deluge Fortress was destroyed and the 13 Almighties, including Fortress Master Hong Qian, were killed. They were extremely shocked and they couldn't believe it. One should know that there was a powerful formation of 13 Almighties, especially as there was a peak Emperor God, like Fortress Master Hong Qian. Previously, Jian Wushuang had said in front of many experts on Thunderbolt Island that he would go to Deluge Fortress in 10 years. Many sneered at his speech and thought Jian Wushuang was arrogant. Under the condition where the Master of Star Palace was restrained and unable to attack, they didn't think Lineage of Star would be able to destroy the team formation of 13 Almighties. Some were even prepared to make fun of Lineage of Star. But in the end, it had yet to be 10 years. Merely a year later, Jian Wushuang had barged into Deluge Fortress and killed all 13 Almighties, as he had said he would. Even Peak Emperor God, Fortress Master Hong Qian, was killed on the spot. It was simply unbelievable. Fortress Master Hong Qian, Peak Emperor God, a super expert. How did Jian Wushuang kill him? I heard that Jian Wushuang invited Emperor God Liu Guang and Emperor God Zhu Yin to join him. The three of them joined forces and cornered Fortress Master Hong Qian into a desperate situation. Fortress Master Hong Qian couldn't run at all. He had no choice but could only burn his soul and counterattack before death. In the end, he died. After that fight, Jian Wushuang's bad name has reached another level. There should be some drastic changes on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, right? Read more chapter on free web novel. Countless experts were chatting among themselves. The fight where Jian Wushuang had charged to Deluge Fortress had caused a huge scene. In the surroundings of Deluge Fortress, there were naturally experts who were watching from afar. There were even some who had recorded things with a mirroring token. The mirror image of the fight was spreading to the public. Jian Wushuang's performance was too outstanding in the fight. In a short period of time, he had killed Emperor God Bing Can with thunderous measures. Then, he had wiped out all Sir Gods. Then, he had joined Emperor God Liu Guang and Emperor God Zhu Yin to corner Fortress Master Hong Qian to his extreme limit. Every scene had astonished the crowd. Especially the 3 Hongjung golden swords that Jian Wushuang had used struck fear into many Emperor Gods. Too powerful. The golden swords that Jian Wushuang controls, every sword's attack was like a hit by Peak Emperor God. It was unbelievably fast too. I reckon one could easily suppress an ordinary Sir God, but he could control 3 at once. The 3 continuous hits could totally suppress a Peak Emperor Sir God. Jian Wushuang is much stronger than we had imagined. In terms of power, he was definitely above Fortress Master Hong Qian. Compared to the Master of Star Palace, he isn't too far behind too. The scariest part about him was his hunting power. 3 golden swords, secret skill of ancient god, moon picking skill, and also the mysterious pearl that becomes formation via his will. Once his opponent's power is below him, his opponent won't be able to escape. His hunting power is too strong. No wonder Fortress Master Hong Qian, who is a Peak Emperor God, couldn't escape. Many people were sighing. They were admiring Jian Wushuang's power. Of course, there was something that Jian Wushuang had displayed in the fight that had astonished many of them. It was his defense power. When Fortress Master Hong Qian was forced to his extreme limit, he had burned his soul and wanted to counterattack before his death. The axe that he had swung hit Jian Wushuang's body directly. In the end, Jian Wushuang had merely grown slightly paler. That amazed many of them. The defense power is too strong. The crimson armor that he was wearing is definitely a very powerful chaotic divine treasure. His divine body was shockingly strong too. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to withstand the hit so casually. His close combat skill is already so ferocious and his defense power is so terrifying. Jian Wushuang. Everyone complimented. But what they didn't know was that Jian Wushuang's current defense power wasn't at its peak yet. One should know that when he received the ancient tribe bloodline inheritance, Jian Wushuang had comprehended the first volume of the strongest secret skill of ancient tribe, Immemorial Celestial Body. Immemorial Celestial Body could be in the top 10 of countless defense secret skills, even in ancient times. It was definitely the best and the strongest defense secret skill. Although Jian Wushuang had comprehended the first volume from the stone stele, comprehension and cultivation were 2 different matters. He had yet to cultivate it. It was not that he didn't want to cultivate, but he wasn't qualified to. Merely the first volume of Immemorial Celestial Body required at least for one to reach the level of early-stage chaotic realm. In other words, the level of Sir God. As Jian Wushuang was an inverse cultivator, his divine power and divine body could be compared to an emperor god favorably. However, in terms of realm, he was truly just a real god. Hence, even though he had comprehended the secret skill, Jian Wushuang had yet to cultivate it. Someday in the future, when he received the 7th step of inverse cultivation skill and breakthrough to reach chaotic realm, he could cultivate the first volume of Immemorial Celestial Body. In collaboration with 5 gem armor, his defense power would really be terrifying then. Just as the forces and experts in Sanctuary Alliance were astonished by the news about Deluge Fortress's crush and Fortress Master Hong Qian's death. There were some changes in Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, as they had expected, and it was a drastic change. After all, ever since Jian Wushuang had started exterminating experts who harbored great resentment against Lineage of Star, in 10 years' time, there had been 4 Emperor Gods who died in his hands. The Emperor Gods were all listed on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. With 4 Emperor Gods' deaths, there was, of course, a drastic change on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. However, many experts in Eternal Chaotic World only paid close attention at Jian Wushuang's ranking. Everyone would want to know which rank Jian Wushuang, who had massacred for over 10 years and carried such a bad name, would be on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. There were many who started guessing before the ranking changed. In the top of Sanctuary Mountain on Thunderbolt Island, there was an exquisite pavilion. There were 2 Sir Gods who sat together and played chess as they chatted casually. The main topic of their conversation was Jian Wushuang. Judging from the mirror image of him killing Emperor God Bing Can, his fighting power should be extremely strong among peak Emperor Gods. He is at least stronger than Fortress Master Hong Qian, so his ranking is definitely higher than Fortress Master Hong Qian. I reckon he would be the 32nd or 33rd. Of course, if he were to be lucky, he might even be in the top 30s. Top 30? Wouldn't that be higher than the Master of Star Palace? You don't think he would go that far up, right? Who knows? We shall see. The great emperors who are the higher-ups of Sanctuary Alliance are more knowledgeable and experienced than us. They could definitely estimate Jian Wushuang's actual power from the fight. There shouldn't be any issue with the ranking list. Very soon, the ranking list was announced. Jian Wushuang, Real God Inverse Cultivator, 30th rank. Chapter 1845, Sect Master. Colored Glaze Sanctuary, inside the Soaring Heaven King Palace. As one of the founders of the Soaring Heaven King Palace, Emperor God Xianxia then was extremely furious. Ranked 30th on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, the higher-ups of the Sanctuary Alliance actually placed Jian Wushuang in the top 30? Damn it! Even Star Palace Master is ranked 31st and he is one position lower than Jian Wushuang. In other words, Jian Wushuang has already surpassed the Star Palace Master? As Emperor God Xianxiao thought about it, flames of fury emerged from his heart. It should be known that more than 6,000 years ago, when Jian Wushuang had clashed head-on with the Soaring Heaven King Palace in the Soaring Heaven Land and Sea continent, Emperor God Xianxiao had once fought with Jian Wushuang head-on. Back then, Jian Wushuang's abilities were not too different from his. However, in just over 6,000 years, Jian Wushuang had already surpassed him completely to get into the top 30 of the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. At such a level, he could be considered an outstanding figure among the peak Emperor Gods. In other words, if he were to come across Jian Wushuang again, there would be no room for him to resist and he could only escape miserably. Moreover, Jian Wushuang's accomplishments were displayed there. For those people whose abilities were weaker than his, it would be next to impossible for them to escape from his hands. This caused Emperor God Xianxiao to be even more furious. Beside him, Sir God Shenbing and Sir God Chen Ren felt chilly. Originally, they had thought that as long as they were to join the Soaring Heaven King Palace, with their protection, Jian Wushuang would not be able to do anything to them. However, looking at it then, this was not the case. Read more chapter on free web novel Even the Deluge Fortress, which contained 13 Almighties and was overseen by Fortress Master Hong Qian, had been destroyed by Jian Wushuang easily. As for the Soaring Heaven King Palace then, wasn't the number of Almighties it possessed less than that of the Deluge Fortress? Fortunately, the Soaring Heaven King Palace has a great foundation and that great Emperor Colored Glaze has shown herself personally to warn Jian Wushuang. As long as the both of us stay in the territories that are controlled by the Soaring Heaven King Palace, this Jian Wushuang will not dare to be reckless. However, if Jian Wushuang continues growing at such a frightening speed, there will come a day where even great Emperor Colored Glaze will be unable to suppress him. At that time, Sir God Shenbing and Sir God Chen Ren looked at each other and their eyes were filled with fear. After that, Sir God Shenbing said immediately, "Palace Master, that Jian Wushuang's speed of growth is too fast and we definitely cannot let him continue growing. Hence, we have to find an opportunity to get rid of him as fast as possible." Of course. Do you think that I need you to tell me that? Emperor God Xianxia stared at Sir God Xianbing and his expression turned grave. Jian Wushuang's current abilities are out of the ordinary. The only way that is possible for the Soaring Heaven King Palace to kill Jian Wushuang is to let Big Brother take action personally. Big Brother. As Emperor God Xianxiao muttered to himself, he took out a token and he sent a message to Emperor God Qianling, who was still in the second lair. Big Brother, when are you able to come back? That Jian Wushuang's speed of growth is too fast and I am completely unable to suppress him. After the token was silent for some time, a message was finally sent over. I will definitely return within 3,000 years. 3,000 years? Emperor God Qianxiao's heart moved and his eyes revealed a delighted expression after that. Jian Wushuang, I shall allow you to run amok for another 3,000 years. After 3,000 years, when Big Brother takes action personally, you shall die. This was a territory which was concealed deeply and was extremely far away from the 10 sanctuaries. This whole territory was covered by a giant formation, and this formation was not a normal protective formation of a sect. It was a formation that was deployed after depleting a great amount of resources along with many almighties who specialized in formations, as well as 2 great emperor-level experts taking action personally. Hence, such a great formation was extremely powerful. Even if a great emperor were to descend, not only would he be unable to destroy the great formation, his life would be at risk if he were to enter the great formation. In the whole of eternal chaotic world, probably only the great formation in the Thunderbolt Island, which was the base of the Sanctuary Alliance, could be compared to this great formation. As for the large territory that the great formation covered, it was the base of the Holocaust sect. The Holocaust sect was a dark powerhouse which operated beneath the eternal chaotic world throughout the years. Similar to the Akron Palace, the Holocaust sect was one of the greatest threats to the Sanctuary Alliance. At that moment, at the center of a hall which contained a standalone space in the base of the Holocaust sect, there was a huge sacrificial altar which was floating. At the highest point of the sacrificial altar, there was a throne made of ice jade. On the throne, a white-clothed woman whose face was covered by a veil was seated. As the white-clothed woman was covered with a veil, her whole face could not be seen clearly. However, even with just the small part of her face which was revealed, it was enough to captivate countless cultivators. As for the pair of eyes that she revealed, they were ice-cold, like frost on a dried fish. Master, this is the piece of news that has come from the Sanctuary Alliance, and you can take a look at it. A black-robed old woman who was by the side handed a token to the white-clothed woman with respect. The white-clothed woman took the token and scanned through it with her consciousness. Oh! An indifferent voice which was filled with surprise could be heard, and the white-clothed woman's eyes were filled with astonishment. Rank 30 in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list? Ha ha, this is really shocking. As expected of the man of this body of mine. Looks like if we were to clash with the Sanctuary Alliance head-on in the future, he would become a big threat to my Holocaust sect. Master, there are now many people in the Sanctuary Alliance saying that there is a huge possibility of Jian Wushuang becoming the second emperor by, and this is not good. Hence, we have no choice but to take precautions. If we can find the opportunity, we had better get rid of him as soon as possible, the black-robed old woman said. Get rid of him? The white-clothed woman's eyes turned cold and she shook her head. Assassinating and getting rid of geniuses of the Sanctuary Alliance are things that the Akron Palace should do, and it is unrelated to the Holocaust sect. Moreover, Jian Wushuang's identity is special. Without my orders, no one in the Holocaust sect is to take action against him. Understood. The black-robed old woman nodded her head repeatedly and she did not dare to go against her. Oh no. How are the preparations with regards to that matter? The white-clothed woman asked abruptly. The preparations are already done. All the experts under the Holocaust sect are in place and everything can proceed according to the plan, the black-robed old woman said. Great, the white-clothed woman laughed. After planning and preparing carefully for so many years, we have finally come to this stage. Send an order that we will proceed according to the plan after 10 days. Understood. The black-robed old woman accepted the order. 10 days later, in the base of the Holocaust sect in the dark region of the eternal chaotic world, a frightening massacre storm burst forth without any warnings. This storm was earth-shaking and countless experts fell in this battle. In particular, out of almighties alone, more than 30 of them fell. If such a frightening great battle were to happen in the Sanctuary Alliance or the eternal chaotic world, it would definitely result in an unprecedented storm. However, As it had happened in the dark region, it was quiet, as if it had never happened before. After the great battle, in the floating giant sacrificial altar in the standalone space, the white-clothed woman who was covered with a veil still sat like before, and below her legs there were close to 100 experts who had knelt down with respect. Greetings to Sect Master. The voices shook the heaven. On that very day, the Holocaust sect underwent a great change and a sect master was born. Moreover, the sect master had the surname Lang. Chapter 1846. Massacre in the past. Just as the entire Sanctuary Alliance and the entire eternal chaotic world were shaken by Jian Wushuang received the news himself. 30th place on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List? Isn't it above the Master of Star Palace then? Jian Wushuang touched his nose. Besides, Hall Master Yuan sent him the mirror image of the fight in Deluge Fortress. The image only started after the formation around Deluge Fortress was broken. There isn't any record of me using River Mountain Map. Jian Wushuang beamed with joy. Mountain River Map was one of his trump cards. It was naturally best to expose it if possible. In actual fact, it was because he had used River Mountain Map as a welcome gift and broken the formation outside Deluge Fortress that stirred a commotion. When the nearby experts recorded a mirror image, they naturally couldn't record the scene where Jian Wushuang had performed River Mountain Map. This is fortunate. Although I revealed many techniques in this fight, there are still many trump cards that have yet to be exposed. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. No one knew that he had held back during the fight. He had yet to fight all out. He didn't expose all of his trump cards either. Like the Dao soldiers, he had merely used 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers. He had never used even one of the 100 bronze-armored Dao soldiers. Plus, his sword servant whose fighting power was above him, Jian Yi, had never fought either. He continued to keep many trump cards for Lineage of Star. Now my ranking on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List is higher than the Master of Star Palace and my bad name is well known. With my bad name, even if the news about the Master of Star Palace's death spreads, various forces who wanted to pound Lineage of Star will have to think twice, Jian Wushuang muttered. Regardless of the outcome of the fight or the deterrent force of the fight, Jian Wushuang was happy with it. As the 13 Almighties in Deluge Fortress had been killed, the remaining solo experts who harbored great resentment against Lineage of Star were few. Either they sought refuge in greater forces or they hid at the border of eternal chaotic world. Even Vientiane Tower couldn't find them. Read more chapter on free web novel. Jian Wushuang could do nothing about it. Hence, he could only return to Lineage of Star first. In Lineage of Star, in the vast void, Jian Wushuang sat on the far highest throne while Hall Master Yuan, Ji Yuxin, and Nai Yun sat below. The 3 Hall Masters were looking at Jian Wushuang with their eyes filled with reverence. In the past dozens of years, Jian Wushuang had stirred a massacre storm in eternal chaotic world with his strong power and ferocious measure. He had killed many solo experts who harbored great resentment against Lineage of Star. His bad name had served as a deterrent to eternal chaotic world. Then, he was listed on the 30th place on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List. With such power and outstanding achievements, the 3rd Hall Masters naturally respected him from the bottom of their hearts. Hall Master Yuan, previously when I invited Emperor God Liu Guang to Deluge Fortress, Emperor God Liu Guang told me on the way that Sanctuary Alliance's higher-ups once had an agreement with the Master of Star Palace many years ago. The Master of Star Palace's action was restricted for the past years. He couldn't massacre with secret skill of Star Palace. What's with this matter? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows and asked. Hall Master Ji Yuxin and Hall Master Nai Yun looked at Hall Master Yuan too. Hall Master Yuan was Universe Galaxy Weapon Spirit. He took care of many things in Lineage of Star and he knew the most about the Master of Star Palace. It is true, Hall Master Yuan nodded and started explaining the ins and outs. It happened many years ago. Back then, the Master of Star Palace just obtained the secret skill of Star Palace in Ancient Mystery Land. After he obtained it, he didn't announce the secret skill to the public. In the end, when Lineage of Star fought with a major force, the Master of Star Palace had no choice but to take action. He fought with a Peak Emperor God from the other party. In the beginning, Palace Master was no match for him. He had no choice but to perform secret skill of Star Palace and killed the Peak Emperor God in the end. The moment the news spread, Alliance Sanctuary shook and many forces, including many solo experts. There were one or two great emperors among the higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance who were interested in secret skill of Star Palace in the Master of Star Palace's hand. Of course, the great emperors who were high above didn't force the Master of Star Palace personally, but experts of the other forces have no scruples. Hence, a large number of experts came to threaten and cajole. In short, they wanted Palace Master to hand out the secret skill of Star Palace. However, Master Palace got secret skill of Star Palace from 7-star realm. The secret skill couldn't be passed on but could only be inherited in Scripture Depository. Those experts from Sanctuary Alliance wanted the Master of Star Palace to hand out secret skill of Star Palace. In other words, it is to hand out the inheritance of secret skill of Star Palace. Then, lineage of Star wouldn't be able to cultivate this secret skill. Why would the Master of Star Palace be willing to? Then, Jian Wushuang was surprised. Secret skill of Star Palace could only be inherited in Scripture Depository and couldn't be passed on. However, Jian Wushuang remembered that when he had received the secret skill in Green Fire World back then, he hadn't received the inheritance of secret skill of Star Palace, but he had passed the test of Star Foggy Sea. Then, Lord Spirit Sound, who controlled Star Foggy Sea, had given him a token. In the token, there was the complete secret skill of Star Palace. If secret skill of Star Palace couldn't be passed on and could only be inherited, how could he explain the token? Not only the token that contained secret skill of Star Palace, but also Star Foggy Sea. It appeared in Green Fire World and it isn't ordinary. Jian Wushuang's eyebrows were tightly knitted. Green Fire World was totally sealed off from the outside world. How did Star Foggy World appear in Green Fire World? And Lord Spirit Sound. Lord Spirit Sound, who controlled Star Foggy Sea. After Jian Wushuang took control of Star Foggy Sea, she had disappeared. Jian Wushuang didn't know where she went to. There were many situations that Jian Wushuang didn't understand. It was a pity that he didn't think of it back then. The Master of Star Palace had already passed away and he couldn't ask. Then, Jian Wushuang looked at Hall Master Yuan. Then, the Master of Star Palace had no choice but to massacre. Hall Master Yuan said, back then, Palace Master also has the fighting power of a peak Emperor God and he cultivated the second volume of secret skill of Star Palace. When he performed with all his strength, his fighting power had already reached the level of a great Emperor. A great Emperor carrying out a massacre is a disaster. Most importantly, when Palace Master wandered in 7-star realm back then, he absorbed a drop of blood essence by chance. Blood essence. Jian Wushuang was confused. That was blood essence left behind by a top expert in 7-star Black Sect, and the blood essence was combined with the terrifying power of Star. Chapter 1847. Massacre in the past due to the drop of blood. The time that the Star Palace Master has when he unleashes the secret skill of Star Palace is much longer, Hall Master Yuan said. Under normal circumstances, after a cultivator cultivates the first volume of the secret skill of Star Palace and activates the star power to unleash the secret skill will only last for 10 breaths time. When the second volume is activated, the secret skill will last for a breath's time. Similarly, the Star Palace Master unleashed the second volume of the secret skill of Star Palace. However, due to the drop of blood, he can continue his massacre for over hundreds of breaths time, or even longer. If he were to not care about the consequences and continue to deplete the drop of blood, continuing his massacre for hours would not be a problem. As such, when the Star Palace Master went on a killing spree back then and massacred for an hour, he massacred the experts of all the powerhouses to the point that they were all terrified. Moreover, back then, the Star Palace Master had also planned to fight his way into the bases of those powerhouses and destroy all of them. In the end, Emperor Bai from the higher-ups of the Sanctuary Alliance showed himself personally to resolve this matter. Emperor Bai? Jian Wushuang was stunned. According to what he knew, Emperor Bai was a supreme being and on normal days, he would be too lazy to care about the fights in the Sanctuary Alliance. Although the Star Palace Master's massacre back then had caused an extremely huge commotion, was it still not enough for Emperor Bai to show himself? I have no idea why Emperor Bai decided to show himself. However, in the end, with the mediation of Emperor Bai, both parties came to an agreement where, from then on, all the powerhouses and sects are to not think of the lineage of Star's secret skill of Star Palace. Moreover, the Star Palace Master has also been restricted. In the eternal chaotic world, unless the other party comes to his doorstep of their own accord or they are being overly aggressive to the lineage of Star, he must not unleash the secret skill of Star Palace to massacre wantonly, Hall Master Yuan said.
Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood.
He also finally understood why all the powerhouses in the eternal chaotic world were so fearful of the Star Palace Master. Moreover, even though his ranking in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list then was greater than the Star Palace Masters, he was still not a better deterrent than the Star Palace Master. So it was due to that drop of blood. Due to that drop of blood, the Star Palace Master could massacre wantonly, and that was indeed frightening. If I were to unleash the secret skill of Star Palace with all my might, I would also be able to unleash fighting capabilities that were not inferior to that of a great emperor. However, I could only maintain that state for a breath's time. As for the Star Palace Master, he could maintain it for hours, Jian Wushuang gasped. For a breath's time, even if the other party were to stand still and allow him to kill them, Jian Wushuang would still be unable to kill many of them. However, if it were hours, the Star Palace Master could definitely kill all the enemies who provoked him. Read more chapter on free web novel. After the wanton massacre by the Star Palace Master, a huge grudge was held between the lineage of Star and those big powerhouses, as well as quite a number of experts who traveled alone. Although those big powerhouses and the experts who traveled alone were filled with hatred toward the lineage of Star, they still had their greedy eyes cast on the secret skill of Star Palace. However, due to them being fearful of the Star Palace Master's absolute abilities, no one dared to be reckless. For many years, this has always been the case. However, during the wanton massacre back then, more than half of the drop of blood that the Star Palace Master obtained was depleted. Be it the danger that he encountered while traveling in the ancient mystery land or the lairs, he had also unleashed the secret skill of Star Palace. As such, the drop of blood continued to decrease, and during the past few years, not much of it was left. The moment the drop of blood is completely depleted, the Star Palace Master will naturally lose his ability to frighten others. Then, if the experts from the powerhouses knew about it, they would probably start another great battle, and the lineage of Star will definitely be unable to stop it. As the Star Palace Master knew about this, he tried to make a breakthrough to Great Emperor. It is only by becoming a real Great Emperor that our lineage of Star can rest easy. After hearing Hall Master Yuan's words, Jian Wushuang, Hall Master Jiu Xin and Hall Master Shiyun became silent. Previously, when they had known that the lineage of Star was in danger from Hall Master Yuan's words, Hall Master Yuan had not made the danger clear to them. It was not until then that they understood the point. At the same time, they also understood the Star Palace Master's troubles. In other words, even though I am currently ranked 30 on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, which is one position higher than that of the Star Palace Master, I am still unable to frighten those experts for real, Jian Wushuang said with a heavy voice. That's right, Hall Master Yuan nodded his head. If you really want to frighten those experts from the powerhouses who have cast their greedy eyes on the secret skill of Star Palace and also have a huge grudge against the lineage of Star, it is still far from enough with the fighting capabilities of the top 30 of the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. What we need is the fighting capabilities of a great emperor, and minimally, we would also need to have fighting capabilities comparable to the level of the Underworld God.
The Underworld God. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes.
The Underworld God was ranked 16th on the Heaven and Earth ranking list, and he was the number 1 after the great emperors. As such, he was the strongest expert among the emperor gods. In the 6,000 years that Jian Wushuang had traveled in the ancient battlefield, he had obtained quite a number of opportunities, and his abilities had risen considerably compared to the past. Previously, in the battle in the Deluge Fortress, he had also not used his full power. However, even if he were to use his full power, he would still be unable to compete with the Underworld God in terms of fighting capabilities. Even Jian Yi, whose abilities were more powerful than his, was still slightly inferior to the Underworld God. Fighting capabilities at the level of the Underworld God. Although I am unable to achieve it now, as long as I am given time, I will have an opportunity to achieve it, Jian Wushuang muttered. Jian Yi's abilities were still recovering, and at then, he had only recovered to middle stage chaotic realm. However, if he were to recover to the peak of middle stage chaotic realm, with his identity of an expert from the ancient past, his abilities would definitely not be weaker than those of the Underworld God. Moreover, his abilities might even be more powerful. Palace Master, at present, Most of the experts who traveled alone and have huge grudges against the lineage of Star have been eliminated by you. Hence, the remaining ones should be those big powerhouses. However, those powerhouses are not easy to deal with, Hall Master Yuan said. Jian Wushuang also understood. For them to be able to become a big powerhouse in the eternal chaotic world, they were definitely not normal. Perhaps even with the number of almighties that the big powerhouses had on the surface, their abilities as a whole might still be inferior to those of the Deluge Fortress. However, what those big powerhouses were the most frightening in was not the number of experts they possessed. Instead, it was their great foundations. There was a saying that a slight change would affect everything else, and it could be best used to describe those big powerhouses. If Jian Wushuang were to take action against a big powerhouse for real, and if he wanted to destroy them completely, the big powerhouse would counterattack. As such, they would use all the resources that they had, as well as favors and friendships that they had accumulated throughout the years to get help from experts. Moreover, there would definitely be many arguments within the Sanctuary Alliance. Jian Wushuang reckoned that if he wanted to destroy a random big powerhouse, it would definitely not be much easier than destroying the Deluge Fortress. Moreover, if those experts who traveled alone knew of teaming up to go against the lineage of Star, those big powerhouses would naturally team up in succession should they smell danger. By then, it would be even more troublesome. Chapter 1848. Weak point: these major forces couldn't be exterminated. We shouldn't bother with them as of now, Jian Wushuang said. The three Hall Masters nodded simultaneously. Hall Master Yuan, there's something you're required to do, Jian Wushuang said. Then, he waved his hands and there were divine weapons and sets of armor that appeared in the void in front of them. The moment the divine weapon and armor appeared, the aura that spread was extremely ferocious. Chaotic divine treasure. They are all chaotic divine treasures. So many chaotic divine treasures? Hall Master Jiu Xin and Hall Master Nai Yun were dumbfounded. Palace Master, this is... Hall Master Yuan looked at Jian Wushuang in shock as well. I got these chaotic divine treasures coincidentally. As for where I got it, you don't have to know. You only need to know that I used a chaotic divine treasure level armor as the price to invite Emperor God Ju Yin to be Lineage of Star's guest elder on the way back, and Emperor God Ju Yin agreed. In a few thousand years' time, he will arrive in Lineage of Star, Jian Wushuang said. Emperor God Ju Yin? He agreed to be Lineage of Star's guest elder? That's great. The three Hall Masters were filled with excitement. One should know that he was an Emperor God. On the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, there was only a total of 81 Sir Gods. After Jian Wushuang's massacre, there was less. Any Sir God was a supreme overlord that could deter the world. Lineage of Star was up against a great threat, and it was definitely a great incident for a new Emperor God to join them. As for the chaotic divine treasure level armor, although it was precious, it was worth exchanging for an Emperor God. There are 21 chaotic divine treasures, 18 attack divine weapons and 3 sets of armor. I will pass them to you now. Jian Wushuang looked at Hall Master Yuan. At such a crucial moment, Lineage of Star has to make use of all resources. For the upcoming period, Hall Master Yuan, figure out a way to get some solo experts, using these chaotic divine treasure or other resources as a condition. For example, you can promise them that they can cultivate the first volume of Secret Skill of Star Palace if they could work for Lineage of Star for how many tens of thousands of years. With these conditions, invite them to join Lineage of Star and strengthen our overall power. Of course, you don't have to make them agree immediately. After all, they have yet to find out about the deaths of the Master of Star Palace, nor do they know the potential danger that Lineage of Star is in. Even if they agreed now, when the news spreads and the danger descends, the people will regret their choice. So, you only have to get in touch with them now and communicate with them. Let them know that we have the intention to. As for true recruitment, that shall begin after the danger starts revealing itself. Those who agreed then are sincere. Besides, the experts that you invite definitely can't be those who are vicious and commit crimes. Even if they could be beneficial to the Lineage of Star because of rewards given, they will betray trust at crucial times, and they might even stab the heart of Lineage of Star. We of Lineage of Star don't need experts like them. I understand. Hall Master Yuan nodded heavily. He naturally knew what Jian Wushuang meant. There were many solo experts in eternal chaotic world. They were all kinds of people. Which experts were worthy to invite with chaotic divine treasure or with large amount of resources, and which experts shouldn't be taken in? Hall Master Yuan knew very well, and he knew how to do it. Hall Master Gunshin, Hall Master Nai Yun, Jian Wushuang looked to the other two Hall Masters. The two of you shall assist Hall Master Yuan in this. After all, Hall Master Yuan is a weapon spirit. His body can't leave Universe Galaxy, and he can only rely on token communication. However, there are times where some negotiations will have to be done in person. Then, I'll have to trouble the two of you to make trips to see them. No problem. Hall Master Jiu Xin and Hall Master Nai Yun immediately agreed. Go ahead. Jian Wushuang waved. The three Hall Masters immediately went to carry out their tasks. As for Jian Wushuang himself, to Jian Wushuang, the power increase was of paramount importance. Not only did he have to increase his own, but most importantly, he had to increase Jian Yi's. After all, once Jian Yi's power resumed its peak, it would be peak chaotic realm, also the level of Great Emperor. He was also extremely strong among Great Emperors. By then, with Jian Yi as his trump cards, it would be enough to deter all forces in eternal chaotic world. Lineage of Star, on Sword Star. I have killed many almighties. I took many elixirs and treasures that could be used for power recovery. There are some from Lineage of Star as well. There are 2 white blaze fruits for you too. For the rest of the time, you have to try your very best to recover your power. Jian Wushuang looked at Jian Yi and exhorted. Yes, Master. Jian Yi nodded politely. Jian Yi immediately went to cultivate in seclusion. Then, Jian Wushuang went to another secret room as well. Before the danger descends, I already did everything that I could for Lineage of Star. Now, I have to prepare for the upcoming war that is going to explode, Jian Wushuang muttered. It's a pity that I am a real god and I have yet to obtain the 7th step of inverse cultivation skill. Hence, I couldn't be aiming to become an almighty. As for my power, I have already increased whatever I could. It is almost impossible for me to increase my power tremendously in a short period of time. Hence, the only thing that I can do now is to figure out ways to compensate for my weak point. Weak point. Jian Wushuang did have a weak point then. His weak point was his soul. His soul strength was maintained at the extreme limit of real god. Such a soul power wasn't weak in his realm. However, his current weakest opponent would be a Sir God, and he often fought with Emperor Gods as well. Luckily, until then, he had not come across any Sir Gods of Emperor Gods who had focused on soul attacks like Sir God Qian Yuan. Hence, no one did soul attacks to him. But once he came across one, a soul attack of Sir God level, he might be able to struggle for a while. But if it was an Emperor God who was good at soul attacks that attacked him, Jian Wushuang was not confident that he could withstand it. Hence, before Lineage of Star became a public enemy, he had to improve his weak point. Hualala. Jian Wushuang waved, and there were a bunch of elixirs for enhancing soul power and many natural treasures that appeared before him. Most of the treasures were extremely precious, and there were a few kinds that were worth more than tens of thousands of doctrine gems. Jian Wushuang prepared them carefully. Before the news about the Master of Star Palace's death spreads, my soul must break through. Let's begin. Chapter 1849. Substance-like soul before the upcoming danger. With Jian Wushuang as the backbone, the few higher-ups of the Lineage of Star were completely united. After Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Jiu Xin and Hall Master Shijun had obtained a large number of Chaos Divine treasure from Jian Wushuang. They had gotten in touch with some experts that had good conduct and also traveled alone. After that, they revealed their intentions to invite them to the Lineage of Star. Moreover, this step was carried out secretly. Everything went on as they had expected, and it was carried out step by step. As for Jian Wushuang, he was using his full power to raise his own soul power. As for Jian Yi, he was doing his best to recover his abilities. Time passed by quickly, and in a flash, 800 years had passed. In a secret room in the Sword Star. I have made it. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes, and they were filled with delight. In his sea of consciousness, there was originally a pile of soul fire that was burning vigorously. The soul fire had undergone a transformation to become a substance-like soul. This substance-like soul was also a shadow, and it looked like a baby. However, its quality was completely different. Substance-like soul. Jian Wushuang's soul power had finally made a breakthrough to achieve the level of an almighty. This stage was actually a critical stage for many real gods to make a breakthrough to become an almighty. Quite a number of real gods had already fulfilled the conditions in other areas. However, as they were unable to form the substance-like soul, they were unable to make a breakthrough to become an almighty. However, Jian Wushuang, as an inverse cultivator, he had already lit the soul fire when he was a Tao master. Moreover, as he had also cultivated the universal Tao scripture, his soul power was nurtured and hence increased continuously. As his abilities rose, his soul fire became more vigorous and it achieved the limit of a real god. After training with great effort for 800 years and also with the aid of many treasures, his soul fire finally completed its transformation. The moment it made a breakthrough, Jian Wushuang realized that his own substance-like soul was a lot stronger than that of normal cultivators when they made a breakthrough to the same stage. Read more chapter on free web novel. It was not just in terms of quality. It was also in terms of how vast the soul power was. When a normal cultivator had just formed his substance-like soul, his substance-like soul would at most be of the size of the fist of a baby. Moreover, it would also be invisible. It was only by continuing to improve it in the future that the substance-like soul would become clearer and its volume would increase as well. However, his substance-like soul then was of the size of the fist of a baby and it was also extremely clear. In terms of quality, it was also a lot better. Perhaps this is due to me nurturing the soul power step by step, starting from when I was a Tao master, Jian Wushuang murmured. However, no matter what, the moment his substance-like soul was formed, his weak point was made up for by a great extent. For him then, it would probably be difficult for the soul attack of a normal Sir God to affect him. As for an Emperor God level soul attack, although it was still a threat to him, the threat was not as great as before. Moreover, when he traveled alone for more than 6,000 years in the ancient battlefield back then, among the large number of opportunities and treasures that he had come across, there was a special treasure. It was a ring, and it was known as the Soul Ring. This soul ring was worn by Jian Wushuang on his hands, and it should be a kind of treasure that defended the soul. However, it was a pity that it was partially destroyed and it was far from able to unleash its power when it was at its peak. However, it was still able to defend Jian Wushuang considerably. With the substance-like soul formed and the soul ring to act as a defense to my soul, my current soul defense is definitely not weaker than that of a normal Emperor God. Moreover, I still have time and I'm still going to improve it. Jian Wushuang laughed. In no time, he closed his eyes and continued to improve his soul. His substance-like soul had just formed and it was still extremely weak. Hence, there was naturally a huge room for improvement. Time passed by. In a flash, 1,800 years passed. By adding the 500 years from before, Jian Wushuang had already secluded himself in training for 2,300 years. However, he had still not come out of seclusion. Just then, in the Purple Moon Sanctuary, in another land in the Purple Moon Sanctuary which was known as the Red Glow Land. The overlord of the Red Glow Land was the Red Glow Fairy Palace and it was a powerful powerhouse which could compete with the lineage of Star head-on. In the giant, ancient fairy palace, there were many high summits that stood upright. At one of the peaks of the lofty summits, there was an exquisite bamboo house. In the open space in front of the bamboo house, there was a white-robed married woman who was sitting down quietly and she was knitting a green upper garment. The cloth that she used was obviously the normal kind. However, more than half of the green upper garment that was knitted was unusually smooth. Moreover, its color was also comparable to that of a warm jade and it looked good as well. Just then, swoosh! A purple-robed figure appeared at the summit abruptly and came before the white-robed married woman. It was a dignified purple-robed woman and she was emitting an impressive divine power. She was a Sir God expert who had reached her peak. Mother! The palace master who took charge of the Red Glow Fairy Palace was Sir God Kaifeng and she was greeting the white-robed married woman with respect. The white-robed married man did not turn her head to look at Sir God Kaifeng. Instead, she only cared about herself and continued to knit the clothes. However, she opened her mouth and said, "I have just gotten a report from the Great Elder and her group of people. She mentioned that our Red Glow Fairy Palace has some conflict with the Soaring Heaven King Palace during this period of time." Mother knows about it already? Sir God Kaifeng's expression changed. Tell me, what is going on? the white-robed married woman asked. This matter started because of Sir God Xianbing. Mother also knows that Sir God Xianbing once had a grudge against the Red Glow Fairy Palace and that the Red Glow Fairy Palace has always wanted him dead. However, now that Sir God Xianbing has joined the Soaring Heaven King Palace and that he has the Soaring Heaven King Palace supporting him, he totally does not care about the Red Glow Fairy Palace at all. Don't you think that this is infuriating? Sir God Kai Feng said. Sir God Xianbing? He has actually joined the Soaring Heaven King Palace? Moreover, the Soaring Heaven King Palace has also agreed to take him in? The white-robed married woman revealed a surprised expression. Mother, you have always stayed here to train and you have never asked about the world's affairs. Sir God Xianbing has been forced by the Sword Emperor of the lineage of Star to the point that he had no way out. Hence, he decided to join the Soaring Heaven King Palace. Sir God Kai Xing gave a simple explanation regarding what had happened during this period of time. Especially Jian Wushuang's wanton massacre. After talking, did you say that it is not just the Sword Emperor himself and instead, the two other Sir Gods of the lineage of Star are also hunting some real gods who have a grudge against the lineage of Star wantonly? The white-robed married woman stopped her hand movements and she looked in the direction of Sir God Kai Feng. That's right. In that period of time back then, the lineage of Star was indeed massacring wantonly. However, perhaps due to them having gotten rid of most of the experts who traveled alone already, they had quietened down. However, not long ago, I heard that the lineage of Star had the intention of recruiting some experts. I really have no idea what they are trying to do, Sir God Kai Feng said. Oh. The white-robed married woman raised her eyebrows. After muttering to herself for some time, she revealed a strange smile. I understand now. No wonder they are doing this. Chapter 1850. Died? No wonder. Sir God Kai Feng looked confused. The white-robed woman smiled but didn't reply. Then, she flipped her hand and there was a token. Mother, this is... Sir God Kai Feng looked at the token. This is the communication token of the Master of Star Palace. For the past 3,000 years, I sent many messages to the Master of Star Palace. He replied to me with a few messages in the beginning. Then, for the past 2,000 years, he didn't reply at all, the white-robed woman said. No reply. Sir God Kai Feng was surprised. The Master of Star Palace even visited Mother personally to ask Mother to set up a formation for him. He should be making preparations for an opportunity in the ancient Mystery Land. All these years, he has been staying in ancient Mystery Land. You sent him messages but he didn't reply. Could he be fully concentrated in some sort of opportunity, or could he be carried away with comprehension? Carried away? The white-robed woman smiled. In the beginning, I thought so too. As he went in for an opportunity and he prepared so meticulously beforehand, it would be normal if he received an opportunity in ancient Mystery Land. But later on, about 300 years ago, I sent him another message but he still didn't reply. That's a little strange. Because he and I have an agreement that he would rush to mine 300 years ago and he would complete one task on my behalf. It was also a condition for me to agree to set up the formation for him. The Master of Star Palace is a good person and his reputation is great. Otherwise, I wouldn't have promised him back then. However, when it was our agreed time and he didn't come here, he didn't even send me a message. That was strange. After all, even if he was carried away in the opportunity and he couldn't rush over in time, he could at least reply and inform me. Mother, what you're trying to say is that the Master of Star Palace has died? Sir God Kai Feng stared. Previously, it was hard to say. After all, he might be in places with unique space-time and he couldn't send any message. However, I heard from you that Lineage of Star has been acting strange. Especially when I heard about Sword Emperor massacring in madness, I became 70% certain that the Master of Star Palace had died, the white-robed woman said calmly. One should know that Lineage of Star has been at peace for so many years. Although they have many enemies, they never killed their enemies so wantonly before. After all, as long as the Master of Star Palace is alive, Lineage of Star's enemies couldn't stir any trouble. Plus, Jian Wushuang. Although he is young, he could reach where he is now as an inverse cultivator. He is definitely not stupid. He should know that when the limelight is too strong, the risk is high, especially when his identity as an inverse cultivator is so sensitive. There were originally a lot of people who didn't wish to see him grow. At such times, if it isn't necessary, he should get stronger in silence. When his power increases and he breaks through to become an almighty, his wings will be full-fledged and there will be almost no one who can do anything about him. He can do anything he wishes then. He would then truly be able to act wantonly, without scruples. By then, it won't be a problem for him to massacre the enemies or even major forces. But it should definitely not be now. Sir God Kai Feng nodded in silence. She felt that what her mother had said made sense. Read more chapter on free web novel. Ever since Jian Wushuang's massacre, although it had led to his bad name, it had also made everyone fearful of him. There were a lot of people who wished for him to die. There might even be people who were preparing in silence. It was really too risky. Besides, Lineage of Star has started to rope in experts with all kinds of methods. Everything I said combined, I'm determined Lineage of Star definitely has a reason that made them do so. As for the reason, besides the death of the Master of Star Palace, I couldn't think of the second, the white-robed woman said with a smile. Sir God Kai Feng heard her and her heart skipped a beat. Yes, Mother, you're right. Only if the Master of Star Palace dies will that Lineage of Star would lose their mainstay. Under helpless circumstances, they took the initiative to kill their enemies, to exterminate them. That's why Jian Wushuang was keeping a high profile. Sir God Kai Feng agreed with his mother's conclusion. From what she knew, Jian Wushuang had fought with Soaring Heaven King Palace back then and he had kept silent and lied low after he had been listed on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List. He had been quiet for 6,000 years. In the 6,000 years, Jian Wushuang had improved tremendously. He could totally continue to lay low and continue to improve his power. However, with no symptoms, Lineage of Star had suddenly started massacring his enemies. It was too strange. On top of that, the Master of Star Palace didn't reply to any messages when the agreed time was up. The possibility of the Master of Star Palace's death was extremely high. The Master of Star Palace, such a horrifying existence, he died in ancient Mystery Land? Sir God Kai Feng sighed. The Master of Star Palace, although he was only on the 31st on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List, he was considered an outstanding one among peak Emperor gods but not the top. However, the experts in Sanctuary Alliance knew clearly that if the Master of Star Palace were to explode and perform secret skill of Star Palace without scruples, its level of scariness would be above Underworld God who was the top person among Emperor gods. Such an expert had died? Ancient Mystery Land has many opportunities, but there are even more dangerous places. These places, forget about Emperor gods like the Master of Star Palace, even a great Emperor would die without a doubt when they enter. The Master of Star Palace only thought of being a great Emperor to serve as a better deterrent to all forces. It was a pity that he belittled the danger. Now that he has died and lost his functions, Lineage of Star. The white-robed woman shook her head slightly. Sir God Kai Feng's eyes beamed when she heard that. One should know that Red Glow Fairy Palace and Lineage of Star were on Purple Moon Sanctuary and they weren't too far apart. There was a conflict of interest too. If Lineage of Star were to be in danger, Red Glow Fairy Palace would receive many benefits too. Mother, the news about the Master of Star Palace's death, do you think we should spread it? Sir God Kai Feng said. You're the Palace Master of Red Glow Fairy Palace. Do you want to hide or spread the news for Lineage of Star? It's your decision. But one thing, even if you want to spread, it can't be spread from Red Glow Fairy Palace. It must be done through a third person. Do you understand? The white-robed woman said. She had a deal with the Master of Star Palace, but there was no friendship. She had helped the Master of Star Palace to set up a formation and it was merely a deal made. Hence, she didn't have the thought to safeguard Lineage of Star. I understand. I will head to Vientiane Tower now. Sir God Kai Feng was extremely excited.